Hi, this is Dave Stelzl. Yeah, today I'm out in California. I'm getting ready to deliver a class to a bunch of resellers, and this is sponsored by a manufacturer or a software publisher, and they're in the security space. And as I go into it, and as I'm preparing for this, what's one of the things that's really on my mind is how does the reseller continue to make money as we move forward in this economy? Not just this economy, but the evolution of the internet economy. How is the business changing? And if you look at what's happening to the product business, the margins, of course, are shrinking, and some people are still boasting, well, I've still got 20-something plus margin in it, or maybe even 30% margin in certain products, particularly software products. Other companies have tried to migrate toward managed services, and what we've seen is a failure to acquire new companies into that model, but to sell a percentage of your existing companies into that model. And so you've got some recurring revenue going, and you're trying to hold on to those margins. And the problem is that the margin is based on this mystery. Remember, where there's mystery, there's margin, an old reseller saying. And with the internet, what's happening is the mystery is going away. Companies like Dell and like CDW are really just copying what's already been done in the Amazon world, in the eBay world, in the Craigslist world, in the Google world, if you will, where content and even product are almost free in many cases. Books being published and movies being published and content being published for free, and then there's so much information out there on products themselves that there's really no mystery in the margin anymore. And with the commoditization of product, it's almost like I can look things up and figure out how to install them, or I can go to the manufacturer and I can get free advice on how to design this, how to build this. And so the reseller at the end of the day has to ask, well, what mystery is going to be left here? I mean, there's still some mystery, but maybe that mystery is going away, and I think it largely is going away. And this is going to create a problem for the reseller that continues to build a model as a reseller and not something else. So one of the things I want you to do today is ask yourself, well, what business are we really in? Are we in the resale business? Are we a middleman? Much like realtors are a commoditized industry where they're making 3 to 6% on the resale of houses, simply because they hold the gem, right? They hold the listings. And so we, as the public, can't get access to them. Well, I don't know how long that's going to last. If we look at other industries, middlemen are being cut out. I was just reading in the Wall Street Journal today that Seth Godin is cutting the publisher out, right? He's written many, many books, and those books have gone through publishers, and they've been marketed, and they've been sold. And so he's just announcing now that in the future, that's not going to happen. He's cutting the publisher out. There's no need for the publisher. There's no need for the middleman anymore. And so if you look at your business and you come to the conclusion, we are a middleman. There's a manufacturer of products, then it comes through distribution, then it goes to us, and then it goes to the end user. Well, that whole industry is being commoditized, and the margins are being stripped out of it in large volume as people go and buy that equipment from people like Amazon. You know, you'll go and buy a camera. Where do you buy it? You can buy it on Amazon now. You don't have to go to the camera store anymore. The Wolf camera, Ritz camera model is kind of being taken away. I went into the store not too long ago to buy a pretty high-end camera, and I brought with me the Google pricing, the Amazon pricing, and the guy matched it. Now, it's funny, there was a display ad on the window there which had the camera that I wanted on sale, and the price was way higher than the Amazon price. This is the for sale price, big sale they're advertising. And so I showed them my Google ad and I said, hey, if you can match this, I'll buy it here locally so that I know who I'm buying it from. But if you can't match it, I'm just going to go to Amazon and buy it. So the guy sold it to me. And what's happening is Amazon has stripped the mystery out of the margin, and Dell is stripping the mystery out of the margin, and HP's in there competing as well, and CDW is doing the same thing. And so now we have these resellers who were supposed to be specialized in selling certain kinds of equipment and creating that mystery so that they could hold on to their margin, and that's going away. And so the question is, again, what business are you in? Are you in the product business? Are you in the resale business? Or are you in some other business? And I would contend that if you don't create some other business model, that you're going to be out of business. And the two things that come to mind, I've talked about them, I've written about them, I've spoken about them in talks I've done, that the operational efficiencies and the risk mitigation strategies are things that require intellectual capital and then drive product. But we can trade the margin on the product for the ongoing managed service, which in itself is also a risk sale. So if I'm out there selling monitoring, that's a product. If I'm out there selling Enable or Zenith or some other service that I manage or host behind the scenes, well, that's a product sale. If I sell servers and networks, it's a product sale. I'm a middleman, and I really don't hold any value except the ability to install that product. And today that's becoming commodity because it's becoming easier to install that stuff. In fact, I've spoken to a number of companies today that can just configure the thing right in their warehouse and just ship it out pre-configured and ready to go. And of course, that's the case with Dell. That's what they do. How will you compete with that model in the future if they just take all that business? And they will. They're buying storage companies. They're buying managed service companies that they own product. I mean, you can't compete with that unless you're huge like they are and you move to a model like they are. And of course, as a VAR, you can't do that unless you completely change your whole model. So is information your business? And I think it is. I think information has to be the business. And it has to be around something that's necessary, like risk mitigation, which is what drives the managed service sale to begin with. So if I go in there and I start to assess things, I recently did a video on the complementary assessment. Why do I give that away? Why? Because it drives justification for remediation, which then needs to be maintained, and most companies can't maintain it, especially in the mid-market and the small market. So it makes sense now that I'm coming in with information, creating justification through education, I'm measuring risk, and then I'm justifying the need for some ongoing service that I provide, which is done through products or back-end infrastructure that might be provided through some of that equipment. But it's the risk mitigation or the operational efficiencies that are created through that environment that I'm actually selling. And so my intellectual capital now all of a sudden needs to be free. It needs to be online. It's my advertising. And so when I start to talk about building that online presence and that brand, it's not around the product, but it's around the ability to maintain an acceptable level of risk. And that is the brand. That's the value proposition. We need a way to begin it. We drive it through. We create that risk mitigation strategy, ongoing support, which creates ongoing annuity, and this creates financial stability. And this is something that you can still sell into your market. So let's start thinking about our business differently. We are not in the product resale business, and we can't afford to call ourselves a VAR anymore. We are intellectual capital around risk mitigation and operational efficiency. And that leads to profitability.